Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Improv Network podcast. This is a series of conversations aimed at building stronger connections throughout the improv community. I'm James Quesada.
And I'm Bob Wick.
And we are your education team for the Improv Network. If you haven't, go check out the improvnetwork.org. There's all sorts of great resources there. And you can make yourself a profile. You can make a troupe profile, teacher profile, a theater festival profile, all sorts of stuff. There's also blogs and interviews. There's an archive of the live stream videos as well as the mini lecture videos under the Improv FAQ tab there. And a friendly reminder that you are at this moment likely watching us either on YouTube or Facebook, the Facebook Improv Network group page or the Improv FAQ YouTube channel. Excuse me. And we are also a podcast, so you can subscribe and get the audio only from these streams wherever you get your podcasts. Yeah.
Put us in your ear.
Keep us in your ears.
In your ears.
Also, just as a upkeep / announcement, I guess, keep an eye out for a post. We're going to be looking for volunteers to join the Improv Network team. Mostly what we're looking for is people to help out with the education arm of the Improv Network, such as helping out with this show and doing some promo and guest booking and scheduling and things like that. And also some other just odds and ends stuff that the Improv Network could use some help with to make this awesome organization as 100% everything it can be. So keep an eye out for that. It'll be a little submission form that will drop on the Facebook page, group, and other relevant places.
See, this is why we need the help. If you listen to that sentence like, oh, I could have nailed that, sign up. We need you.
Keep an eye out for it wherever, think of where you might expect to see it and let us know where that is, and we'll put it there.
We're taking suggestions. Where would you like to see a post about interning? Cool.
Okay, any other housekeeping stuff we need to go over, Bob, before we get to our guest?
No, I think we're good to go because I'm excited for this guest, so I just want to get to it.
Yeah, we have one of our favorite people to have on the show, our recurring guest / co-anchor is joining. You know her from being on the show, and also she's the founder of Improv On and Off the Stage. Please welcome Shannon Stott.
Oh,
there she is. Came on audio only.
I did it. No, I am here. I'm here. I am here. We are here,
Yeah. Welcome, Shannon. How you doing?
I'm so well. Always glad to be here. Love actually being here. It's how I like to spend my Sundays. If I'm going to spend a Sunday, this is the way to do it.
Well, to compliment a compliment, you made my week because I really enjoyed your movement video. Yeah. Have you not seen this, James?
No. What is it?
You got to get on the gram, son.
I know.
I'm not really.
We're talking about movement. We're talking about putting things in your bodies. We're talking about releasing emotion. This is what we're talking about at Improv On and Off the Stage. What are you guys taking suggestions about over at the Improv Network?
How to put a volunteer submission form?
Or where? Yeah.
What
is something you find in your kitchen? A volunteer submission form? Thank you. At least it wasn't spatula. Appreciate it. Let's go.
Awesome. So, honestly, is the just so we know, is that video on your personal page, or is it like the Improv on and off the stage?
Instagram, Improv on and off is the Instagram page for Improv on and off the stage. So if you go over there, that video's there. There's one, I think there's actually a movement video on YouTube, no, on TikTok, because I'm on TikTok now. Because I'm up with the TikToks.
You are my cement guy.
So yeah, I'm everywhere. I'm everywhere.
I also believe I reshared it on our Instagram feed. What? Yeah. See, that's how friends do. When friends make something cool, share that.
Share it.
I'm proud of us.
Tweet it.
Yeah, we're doing good work.
We are. We're all trying to do this.
And if you're interested in doing good work, look for that intern submission form.
It's in your junk drawer or trunk.
It's in your grandma's attic. I don't know. It's also your favorite lyric. Wow.
Sometimes I think in your brain, you're like, please get to the content now, Shannon and Bob. Please.
Yeah, I'm always looking. That's my job. Is I gotta rein it in. You two keep it lively and unpredictable.
That's what unpredictable looks like. That's going to be James first TikTok. Oh, be unpredictable. You don't know where my hands are going. Yeah.
Let's get to the topic though.
What is it
let's
that
do?
We're talking about today?
Right. So. Apologies to anybody who caught the montage title. I threw it on there as a placeholder, but we made a last minute audible, and we'll talk about some montage tips in a future episode. But for this episode, we're going to be talking about what to do with a quote unquote bad student in an improv class. And so this is something that the two of you actually were looking to talk about. And so I suppose. How are we defining in these quotes a bad student?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, here's some things. I want to like break up some categories maybe about what bad student looks like, especially from like there's a perspective of the instructor and then there's the perspective of the student themselves, right? So in the three like sort of genres that come to mind are one, the student who is literally like only there for laughs, right? For some reason, they're not necessarily there to work as a team. They're not necessarily there to get better at comedy. At least they come across as like, I am here because I am funny. And I was told a million times, I'm so funny, I should take an improv class. And now I'm here and I get to say bleep bleeps and bleep bleep and bleep bleep. I get to say all of those things anytime I want. And the
bleep student, yep.
bleeps, right? Because I'm assuming we can't bleep things out.
You can swear on the podcast.
But they're there to be like racist, sexist. They're just there to be. Yes. So, yeah. But they think it's funny in the form of comedy. All right. So there's that person. Then there's the person. Oh, now I've lost all the other one. But then the last person is the student who is trying their hardest. They really are trying to understand the concepts, but somehow, some way, whether it's the group that they're in or the instructor, they are not succeeding. People don't like to play with them. People, in general, people don't like to play with them. And they are difficult to teach because the instructor becomes frustrated for some reason. There's a third one in there in between. It's like the person who's just there for laughs, the person who's like, and that guy, but I don't know.
I got one for you. The student who doesn't want to be there at all. It's rare, but it feels like, is this court ordered? Why are you in this? You don't want to get up. You don't want to be silly. You don't want to be in the scenes. But shows up to every class.
I feel like I wish I had like a chalkboard, because I feel like that person has a like a stem, it's like they either are there because they are getting something out of just being around people,
Okay.
or there's something happening. That person is always such an interesting person. So anyway, let's talk about these groups.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I suppose this is a relevant comment too, just to kind of frame things, is that Facebook user, somebody I suppose on the group page.
I'm on the Facebook page so I can see who's posting. This is from our buddy Kurt.
Good. Put him on blast. Okay, Kurt.
Yeah.
Kurt says, in my field, students fall into two categories: those that know that they don't know, and those that don't know that they don't know. Would you say that tends to be true with improv students? And I think that is sort of a way, excuse me, that that's an interesting way to frame a couple of these categories too, because I think that the people that are, the student type that you're talking about, Shannon, that is just coming in selfishly to be funny and self-edify and just kind of show off or whatever it is, I think is definitely somebody that maybe either thinks they know what comedy is or thinks they know what improv is and doesn't. They just have a misunderstanding of what they're supposed to be doing, or whether improv is a place for them to do what they're trying to do.
Right.
And then there's the type of student that is like doing their darndest and just not grasping it for whatever reason. I would say typically knows, well, maybe like half the time, those types of students will know that they're having a hard time, and they're like, I'm going for it and I'm trying, I'm just having a hard time. And sometimes it is really just like, okay, I don't know what I don't know. And I'm not sure why it's not working. And sometimes I feel like it is, but then afterward, everyone's kind of like, did you see what you missed there?
Yeah.
So I think that is an interesting way to frame it, is people who aren't aware of what they don't know or what they're misunderstanding about the craft of improv. And there are people who do know and are struggling, regardless.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's get into talking. What do we do? Let's go with like the people let's start with this up at top, like the people who are just there for their self-indulgence. So if we're using those sort of two categories, that student who comes in, they think they know what's going on, what comedy is, what they're good at, what's funny. And so they're just pushing that agenda. What do we do with that student?
Yeah, because that can be frustrating, because to me, these are also the same students that when you give them a note, like a sincere, like thoughtful note, they push back like, nah. I'm like, okay, well, I mean, again, this is your art. I'm not going to push I'm not trying to make a cookie cutter Bob. This is just how I say things. To me, this is, as a director, I think the best way to communicate what I thought your thought was. But you don't want to listen to the guy you're paying to instruct you. Cool.
Yeah, I think. Go ahead, Shannon.
I think one of the things that I'd love to talk to both of you about is when a student comes in, what the purpose of the class is, right? So what is the theater trying to teach? What type of student are you trying to release into the world? And how is this student pushing against that agenda? Because I think if you can clearly outline what it is that the class is meant for, by the end of this class, if you tell your students, by the end of this class, you will be able to work together and come up with a cohesive scene that involves everyone. And what you're finding is this one particular student all steamrolls and talks over and then I feel like you have more ground to stand on to tell that student, listen, think what you're doing, awesome for you. It's awesome. You go out into the world, my girl, like go and do it, but you can't do it here. That what we're trying for is something that you're not trying for. And, I even like hesitate to say, go out into the world and do it, especially when it's the people who you're like, oh, no, I wish you
never say that again.
I wish
you and your character should not be having those thoughts.
Right. But if you don't have an idea of where what your class is, what the purpose of your class is, what the reason or what the thing is that you want your students to learn, then it's going to be much more difficult to kick out that person or to address that particular student.
Banish them.
Yeah. Into the improv wasteland.
I agree 100%, Shannon. And honestly, I think that like as a umbrella solution, that's probably the biggest thing that we can apply to like everything that we might talk about in this conversation. Is just like if you have a clear mission statement and set expectations, then it's easy to draw back to something objective, and that really like just at the outset was what I had in mind is you have to be able to, as a teacher, to describe objectively what the goal is in some terms that can be understood by everybody. And you might have to redefine it so that it makes sense to individuals who are not seeing or getting the clarity on the goal. But that if you can do that, that's the big thing that I think will get people to either understand that they maybe are looking for something out of improv that isn't necessarily what improv is. Maybe they're looking for sketch or stand-up or to start a podcast. And then for Kurt's framing, that's how you let people who don't know that they don't know that they don't know.
Mm-hmm. What about the pushback? Now I'm playing that person, right? So you do the thing. You say, look, Shannon, it's so what you're doing in here is your own brand of comedy. It's so cool, but honestly, it's not fitting in with what we're doing. And when I say, oh, well, I didn't know, like, I want to do what you want me to do. I really want to be here. I love the people in this class. Like, it's really cool. Just tell me what to do. And then you go and you do, but they're still not doing it. So how do we take care of that, Shannon?
Yeah.
To me, that's like the same student who you have to say yes. Yeah. Stop denying. It's teaching an old dog new tricks, if you will. And getting them comfortable with adjusting their comedic point of view. And that's hard, because they've probably been doing it. I always call it the funny at work people, like, this always gets a laugh at work. How come it doesn't get a laugh on stage? Different context. And honestly, with those people, I try to break it down is my job isn't trying to teach you how to be funny. People are just generally funny. This is more about communication and listening and like you said, working together. This is comedy by committee rather than is you doing what you do and it not working doesn't mean that what you're doing is wrong. It's just not working as a group project rather than your book report.
I want to put just a little. I just want us to remember the words comedic point of view. What? Is Bob a genius?
No, I'm a parrot who've heard that before.
Comedic point of view. Because the thing is, in what I've been saying in these, just like, oh, you're doing great. Yeah, what you're doing is cool. You shouldn't say those words. You shouldn't say those things to a person. I don't feel, but the term, your comedic point of view is different than ours.
Yeah.
Is so much more on point, right? Because what you're not saying is, I don't like it. right? And you're also not pumping that person up. You're not telling them that it's good, right?
Blowing smoke up their butts.
Yeah.
Gosh, James. Yeah, that's it.
Wow, now we got Rain James in this episode. Oh.
God, James. Jeez. But it's important because it's important that when you release somebody or you tell them your comedic point of view is not ours, when you're doing that work, that you don't say the words, yeah, you're really cool, you're hilarious, but this place probably isn't for you. Because when that person goes to James's class and it's like, well, Shannon Stott told me I was hilarious. And then James calls me and is like, hey, you got some dinkus in here talking about you. You sent them to me, And so as a community of teachers, we have to be careful of how we talk to students as they travel, right? As they go through their journey in improv. And just how we talk to them, how we release people into the world and how we speak to them so that we can keep each other sort of abreast of what's going on.
Yeah, that's huge too, is being on the same page as a group of teachers. And I don't think every theater needs to have like the most strict handbook, but I think that it's so helpful to have, at the very least, those questions should be simple enough to answer. What is the goal for what type of improviser, performer, actor we want to put out into the world, by the end of each class term and by the end of a program, and then how are we going to treat and approach people? What is our philosophy on how to engage with students when they do or don't fit with what our mission statement is.
Yeah. Can I, oh, this is blasphemous. Okay. I'm going to say some blasphemous things here.
Let's do it.
What happens when the teacher is wrong?
It's happened. It's true. I mean, we've all gotten bad advice from people and from people with the best intentions.
And again, it's going to come back to like, as long as the theater has for its program objective goals and expectations, that's going to include how the teacher should be behaving and engaging. I think what's tricky is that there isn't an easy way to review that. You really, how do you guys feel about like people sitting in on classes to observe and stuff? Do you feel like if an artistic director or owner of a theater sits in, I think personally that's a good way to just kind of like get an insight on things, but you might get that for like one class, and do you two feel like does it like change the vibe? Do people get nervous? Do you get nervous if you're being observed? Can you play freely and do the thing you're there to do if it's like being audited?
I don't know. I honestly, I probably not, because I know what I do, and most I don't really judge on content unless it's so out of bounds, like everything that Shannon brought up at the beginning of this episode. Like the obvious. I basically use the new friend at a dinner rule. But most of my, especially like in advance, it's communication and stuff like that. Like, how come? Why as I, the audience member, not understanding what you're trying to put out, and can you explain what you were doing, and maybe as a group we can figure this one out together. Okay, sorry, I went on a tangent, but anyways, if PJ were to sit in, I'd be fine with that. I'd feel maybe a little bit weird because maybe the class thinks something's going on, but other than that, like, oh, what did Bob do? Like, I didn't do anything. He's just making sure the product he's putting out is good for the theater that he owns.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like the thing is that if we take that idea of like the theater having an idea of what kind of student they want to put out, and if we take acting, improv seriously as a business, right? You want to know what your instructors are doing. You do hire your instructors. See, that's an interesting thing. Sometimes teachers get hired without they just sort of sneak in there.
Yeah, right.
You know what I'm talking about. Like teachers
absolutely.
like, oh, I'm teaching now, and nobody
the one that the other teacher's like, what is going on?
What happened?
Yeah.
Why is that? Like, and it's fine, but usually it's fine. But as a business, it's true. Like one should be auditing one's teachers. One should be going in there and just seeing like what the vibe is. And as a teacher, you should be able to say like, we hold ourselves to these standards. We are getting off on a tangent, y'all. But anyway, we hold ourselves to these standards, and we're just trying to make sure that we are putting out the product that we should be putting out. At the end of the day, are we all unified in the message that we are telling our students? So, and then to get us back on, if we are all unified in the message that we're telling our students, when the student comes up that's like not getting that message, we can all look at each other and say, did you tell him to always enter stage left? It's true. I told him always enter stage left, always enter stage left. And he just pops up from behind stage right all the time while he's out of here. Out, I tell you.
Yeah, that is the worst student. Stage right, Mike. I don't like that guy. No, but I want to go back to what if your instructor is wrong? I do like to tell, and I think as an improv instructor, if you're good enough to know that you're not perfect. You're not the guru. You're not the gatekeeper of improv comedy. You just have a little more stage time than anybody else in the class. And quite possibly there might be someone who's just naturally talented in there and better than you, or see something, or have a life experience that that you have an experience, and their comedic point of view might be different from yours. Give me this one. It's gonna be a long one.
Go for it.
Yesterday, my girlfriend Natalie and I went to the DIY Do It Yourself Festival. And there are many tents there. 90% of that stuff I am not interested in buying, but every tent was full of people buying that stuff. If I was an art director and only let the stuff I liked into the DIY festival, there would only be like 4 tents and not much of a festival. I'm a little more loose with my comedy, but like just that thing, like the point of view isn't the only point of view. So when you're instructing, that is not your job to create a mini-me. Your job is to unleash that person into the world, the best version of them as possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really want to poke that even more. And
go for it.
Yeah, for instructors to realize that even cultures, right? Culturally, what is funny in different cultures, in different languages, in different just backgrounds, whether you have 2 parents that are the same gender, 2 parents at all, or whether whatever it is that you're coming from, how you present in class, or what you find funny may look different from anybody else in class. I had a student who was, I don't even know, who was fat. I think fat, who was fat, right? So she would term herself as fat, and she would fall all the time on purpose for comedic relief, right?
Yeah.
And it was so interesting because she was comfortable doing it, and it was hilarious to her. In context, honestly, it was funny. It was funny, but the students were so taken aback. They were concerned really for her safety that they couldn't get over the fact that she looked to be putting herself in harm's way. And that was hard for me to diagnose. It was hard for me to like navigate, because on the one hand, and I think we did that class did like 2 showcases, and in every showcase she did the same thing, and the audience thought it was hilarious. The audience was happy. So it was really interesting for me, because people other students would come up to me and say, I just feel I don't want to be on stage with her, because if she falls, then what if she hurts herself and I have to pick her up? Like what do I do? What do I do? They were so concerned about themselves. And they were also concerned about her, that they couldn't find her brand of humor joyful. And that was really interesting to me. It was just an interesting paired, and she took those 2 classes and then she split. So like, I didn't even have she was gone. But there are things
you found a theater that was all pratfalls.
She sounds like she would love a clown class.
Man, like going full Chris Farley. That's dope.
She was good. She was in general, like her whole shtick, her whole like her verbal comedy, also very funny. But I think that there is not tendency, but there is an awareness that instructors need to have, so that they can really gauge, they can really look at their students and see, okay, what am I looking at here? Am I looking at a cultural difference? Am I looking at something that I'm not understanding? Is this person truly just being a dingus?
Yeah.
Can I say dingus? What is? I'm gonna
we're gonna have to bleep that out. I'm sorry.
Yeah. The one time you don't say bleep or bloop. Yeah. Well, StreamYard just popped up. They are upset.
I can't remember where I picked this up, but at some point I was taking a workshop, and the instructor was talking about, we want to have physical safety and emotional safety, and we want to have safety for ourselves and for the audience, in both of those ways. So, I think that, especially in a class, the other students are sort of half audience, right? Because like we're all learning, we're all watching each other exercise these concepts, and so that was something valuable to me. That like anytime something like that comes up that you're describing, Shannon, where it's like I see that this person is not uncomfortable or harming themselves, but we're worried about it. So that's something that can sometimes help frame things, and then it becomes like, okay, well, if this student is, if we're like, hey, this, like, the physical comedy that you're doing is like, it is effective, and again, not blowing smoke up anybody's ass, but I see that you are comfortable doing that, and that it is funny, but like, just for the safety of the class and as we're all learning, we just maybe hold back a little bit so that we don't worry about your actual physical safety, because that's kind of jarring for us in the learning environment to be able to feel safe.
I agree with you, but I also disagree with you. In a way, like, is there a way we can make this comfortable? Let's talk as a class.
Yes.
If this is their idea, like, if this is a class about, if someone has an idea, we're supposed to support and build from it. And this is her idea of falling. What would make you comfortable? We have to fight fear. We have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. Is there a way we can do this where you guys as a group will be cool with it? And let's have that conversation. What is the fear? If the fear of she's going to get hurt, well, she knows herself. And if she's an adult who wants to do this action, and feels comfortable, and we've all witnessed her do it a bunch of times,
right? We
should be comfortable. If it's something your own personal safety, that's a different conversation. Let's have that conversation. Is there a way she can do it where you would feel safe? if it's proximity, or you don't want it to be in scenes, if she's going to do that move because it seems to be her go-to, cool. Also, why is this always your move?
Yeah.
Like I've seen 2 shows with you and you've done it twice. That's awesome, but don't be a one-trick pony that always does the same move. Why don't you hold that for when you get into the big leagues?
Yeah, I agree. I agree that there are 2 conversations there. There's a conversation that you have with the person, right? And there's a conversation you have with the class. I want to say, if you are watching out there and you're the person who's like, well, Shannon said falling is okay for everyone. Falling equals being racist, sexist, or otherwise annoying. They're not the same, because what Bob is talking about, what you're saying is true. That particular thing is a harm, I guess, or is a thing that is happening to that person, right? They are falling, they are doing whatever it is. If you are taking something else out into the world and out that's making people uncomfortable because it's directed at them, and you said it, like if it's your safety that you're concerned about, or your feelings, or your whatnot, now there's a conversation that needs to be had.
Yeah.
I want to take us into talking about the other tier of people that are out there, right? Who aren't, I don't want to say they're not getting it. I feel like that's
I
not.
don't like that either.
Can I set this up? Because I have an interesting story that I think will frame this.
Okay.
So I was teaching for a couple of years, and so I didn't have my mastery of these kind of conversations. And there was a student. The Go Comedy is where I was teaching, and we have 8 class levels. There's like 4 intro and 4 advanced. And there was a student who I taught twice, in advanced 1 and advanced 4. So basically the 5th and 8th class. And when I had her in the 5th class, it was very frustrating because she very clearly did not have an understanding of what we're supposed to be doing in improv. And as a newish teacher, I didn't have my best ways of describing that, but I was still trying to like connect with her and figure it out and like kind of challenge in different ways. But she was earnestly trying to do what she thought I was asking, but she would get just as frustrated as me about like, it's not clicking. And we weren't like really mad at each other. We were just like there's just this tension of like, there's
2 people trying to solve the same problems in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I think what she was thinking was happening is that improv is stand up on the fly, so that you're supposed to have like go-to things in your back pocket and your bag of tricks, and be able to access them and apply them in improvisational ways at a moment's notice. That's my understanding of what she thought was going on, and I was trying to get her to shake that and truly make things up, and I will say by the end of that class, I did not reach or change or give her any sweet epiphany. She went through then to the final level where I taught her class again. And by the end of the class, we were doing reviews. We just have like one-on-ones to just like check in at the end of each term. And she was like, by the way, I now realize what improv is. And she was like, and I see what you were trying to tell me back in advanced 1. Yeah. And it really wasn't, she had some epiphany on her own. It wasn't any moment or thing that I gave her, but somewhere in between that 5th and 8th class, she switch flipped where she understood what the goal was of improv, what the truth is. I think she might have also been thinking that it was like a magician's group where it's like, we don't tell you the secrets in class, like you're going to graduate and then we're going to be like, by the way, it is really stand up. but she
here's
was
your script.
But along the way, I know that she was somebody that like teachers would kind of give a heads up on of like, hey, this person's in the class and they're a little tough for the other students to deal with, and we're trying to figure out the best way to get it to click. But it was amazing because like not only did she by that last class when we had that conversation, did she have a more connected understanding of what the goal of improv was. She seemed like a whole different person. Like she the conversation was less frustrated or guarded or defensive.
Oh yeah. The class was fun. Finally,
she was laughing about it. It was like yeah. She was like, I don't know why I thought that's what we were supposed to be doing this whole time. And you know what I mean? So it was like it's that type of person that comes to mind when we talk about this like person who isn't getting it or person who's in earnest trying but it's not clicking. And what I'm the broad question that I wonder about sometimes is how much it is like that. I think, like I said, I think that this epiphany for this student changed her on a personal level more so than just like the comedy goal. So like, I wonder how much it is like our responsibility to give it like 8 classes worth. That's like a year and a half to get to this final thing, or if there should be more like, I don't know if there's like a division between like we're doing this at a more inclusive level to like give people the idea and the concepts of improv in the most broad sense, and then eventually there's like a program where it's like we're doing this for performance, and you're either any system like Groundlings pass and fail, or UCB's like grading system, or Second City like conservatory audition type stuff. It's something I wonder about of like how much what is the best way to give that person the value of what you can get by not giving up on someone, and by someone not giving up on what improv is, without it being something that's taking away from the value that other people are getting out of the classes along the way.
Well, it's situational, because if that person that even though it sounded like that person, even though they were frustrated, was still listening to you. So I'm not going to give up. As long as we still meet up every week and you're doing what you're trying to do and I'm doing what I'm trying to do, I ain't going to give up on you. Because I've had students who like you said, like I've had so many students who've had that epiphany moment and I had nothing to do with it. But then like almost like at the end of The Usual Suspects, they sit at the bottom of the coffee cup and then it all flows back like, Bob said this, and like came up to me like, oh my God, I know the secret. I'm like, yes, I am Kaiser Sose. Cool. But there's people who I don't think will ever get it because they're not comfortable with themselves. And that's something you can't give to somebody. They have to learn on their own. But even with that thing going on, they went out and still made something and did something that made them happy, and they call it improv. And who am I to tell them that is not improv? If I was teaching a pottery class, I'm not trying to get you into the Smithsonian or Smithsonian. That's why I don't teach art and I don't run a DIY.
It works. We know where you're going.
I'm running with it. I'm just going. If you make an ashtray and you use it and you're happy, first of all, quit smoking. Second of all, good on you for making an ashtray. Awesome.
I love this, right? Because all right, so one of the next times we all meet, I would love to talk about like therapy, how improv isn't therapy, but it can feel like therapy, right? And that connects to this because as instructors, it feels sometimes if you, the instructor, get it, like suddenly you realize, oh, this person not only doesn't speak up in class, they're not the first person on stage, they're not the first person, they're not the biggest character, whatever it is, but they also in their lives, you can see like on a social level, they are exhibiting their social anxiety on stage. You become a champion for their life if that makes sense. Like you're instead of getting on them for bigger characters, like, or whatever it is, you're saying things like, that was awesome. I've never seen you try that before. That seemed like it was out of your comfort zone. Well done. Hey, you were the first person to get on stage today. Like, the focus shifts a little bit. And there is something about that type of feedback that I think keeps people coming back. And if it's a year and a half of classes, like, you know, if they're taking a blockchain of eight sessions, then if in the very beginning or somewhere, if all the way through, you're feeding that part that they are actually there for, they're coming to improv so that they can do something in their lives. At some point, their lives shift, which gives them the confidence to reflect that on stage. Whereas for some people, it's the opposite, right? Like you can get on them for, hey, we told you not to speak over people. We told you, or I'm telling you, try something bigger, and you're absolutely focused on their stage presence shifts, and then their lives can shift. Or maybe their life doesn't need to shift.
Right.
Maybe it's just that they are working on this thing, the craft of improv. But if we can, as instructors, sort of open our eyes, our minds to see sometimes that we are not just improv instructors, right? We're not just there to tell people that their Bob Newhart impression is crappy. Why would you tell someone that? Don't come in here with that, telling people that. But we're not just there.
Put that in the Smithsonian and where it belongs. Your Bob Newhart.
With your ashtrays, Bob Newhart. Anyway, but if we're not just there for that, we're there to see what it is that they're going through in their lives, without being therapists, but we're there to at least be aware. How about that? Yeah. We're there to be aware that, oh, I see, this person is going through whatever it is. So when I am coaching them, I'm not necessarily on the improv track. I'm on the, well done, you're coming out of your comfort zone. Well done, you were the first to speak. Well done, I'm seeing you change in these ways. I'm seeing how it's reflected. So I think that there's something to be said about that. And then James, to wrap my rant up a little.
That's a great rant.
Yeah, thanks. There is value in sticking with that person. If you can be aware of the thing, if you can be aware of that, then there's value to that person, because I know both of you have had that student who comes through, they take all those classes and they have no want to be on stage. They do not want to perform. They don't want to be an improviser, but sure as shit, they're just like there every week trying to figure it out. And you've got to be there. You've got to meet them, because they're also bringing value to their own lives. It might not be to the scene. It might not be that they're trying to be, I don't know why. Bob Newhart. They're not trying to be Bob Newhart.
No one's trying to be Bob Newhart.
I love that as a note after. It's like, hey, you did a great job. You didn't bring any value to the scene, but what you did for yourself there was huge. You're making giant strides.
You are like
not the Bob Newhart. The scene really took a nosedive there, but I like what you did for you.
If anybody's interested in taking Shannon's Bob Newhart workshop,
give me a call. You don't have to bring value to the stage at all. No value is expected of you.
Well, so I guess let me take another angle on it because I'm just curious of the reality of this. I think that my answer for my own question here would be that the value of having somebody who's difficult and having these challenges as a student for the other students in the class is like, okay, well, you're not always going to work with people like it's a part of improv that you're not always going to have things be perfect conditions and go your way. So like the more patience you can build, and take that challenge of connecting with somebody, even if they're frustrating to do scenes with, and it's kind of the eye roll of like, oh man, I got to get up there with so and so.
Right.
I think that is what I would tell students. However, I really do think that like I relate to people that are like, man, there's just somebody in, especially if you're in like a class group that moves together from class to class, and you're like, we all signed up and so signed up again. And it's just like, man, the feeling that like this one person in a class can make the whole thing less enjoyable or a drag, even if they're sincerely trying and doing their best. I relate to it. And I'm like, what is the best solution for that? To just like keep having the asides with these students and be like, you freaking be patient and learn some humility, you sons of guns.
Well, because I've been in a room with someone complaining about the other person, how hard they work with, and I'm like, oh, if I had a mirror. So the analogy I always use is, hey, this is class, and treat class like a gym. You're lifting more weight than you need to get strong enough to when you get on stage. So when you do play with somebody who is quote unquote easier to play with, it's gonna be simple because you did all the work. You're gonna have great habits, everything you need to build to be a great improviser. You are learning. So thank that person for being your extra weight. If it's true, even if it's not true, I use that.
I am on the other side of that. I feel like depending on how long it's been going on that way, it might behoove you the instructor to say something to the effect of, hey, we want to keep you like your comedic point of view is not gelling with this particular group, but we would love to see what you are like in this group. Like if there's a way to tactfully have that conversation, because it may be that the person also is feeling that way. Because I've had students who are like, the class is doing the thing and they're like, come on, Bob Newhart, like get it together. Because that's
BH.
Get it together, Bob Newhart. But then the other person also is feeling like, wow, like nobody gets me here. Nobody understands what I'm trying to do, those types of things. So there's something to be said about, especially if you want to keep that person. Because sometimes, have you ever had that student where you're like, that person's hilarious. Like that person needs to get in, because you can see like no one gets their brand of humor because it's just their brand. And you don't know what to do about it because they're not having a good time. The student's not having a good time. The other people aren't having a good time.
Yeah.
And it's like almost a tragedy to just let them sort of slip between your like fingers just for the group. So there's got to be something in there. You have, as an instructor, you have to be aware. Okay, what are my options here? Like, do I make the class stronger? Do I put them in another class?
Because I think that what's well, I have two things here. One, Bob, I'm curious. Like, what would you say is like the best way to have that conversation with people if the advice is that like, hey, it's like being at the gym and lifting weights. You can feel the tension in the room, but like, like how, you're like get up here, Bob Newhart. Let's just talk about the elephant in the room, Bob.
I understand we all want to be Bob Newhart, but there can only be one.
Like, do you wait for students to just kind of like come up to you, or what do you think is the best way to like soothe that tension when you can't openly talk about it, or should you?
So what I was saying, like usually usually the group will have someone come and talk to you about it. Because that's usually a move. That's when I do the weight thing. Like, you know what? Why don't you be cool? And like, part of our job is to make the other person look good. So this is part of your training. To treat it like that. Take the challenge and accept it. If it's like, oh, Bob Newhart got up and no one's getting up with him because they don't want to play and they're being jerks, I gotta check that. And if it's Bob Newhart's fault, maybe I got to pull Bob Newhart aside and have a conversation with them. Like, what's going on here, because sometimes it's not the comedic POV that's making it. Sometimes it's something that happens socially, or there might be more to it. Personally, I don't want to get into what's going on in student lives, but if it's disrupting the class, then it's an unfortunate thing. If a byproduct of a party foul is interrupting my class, I'm gonna have to nip it in the bud.
Yeah. Well, but what you're saying is that, like, you really got to wait until the class, by its own nature, brings it up with you, right? You don't
unless it's something that's like, oh, this is crossing
a real line, but it's the stuff that's like that's tension, but not real threat or danger or harm. That is sometimes the toughest to deal with. Is just like, it's tense, and there's nothing objectively that we can call out.
There's a range. It can be something as simple as like, oh, the six of us have been playing with each other since the first level, and I'm only comfortable with these 5 people, and then this new person's here, and they seem really nice, but I don't trust myself enough to be on stage with someone new, so getting them over that. Or sometimes it's, something more, I don't know, for lack of a better term, cynical. So then it's like, oh man, I'm going to call someone who's got a little more power than me and bring them, and we'll have a discussion, or we'll have to do something extreme.
You're coaching. We also have to remember that we are talking about an individual, right? We're talking about what happens, the idea of the blank student, right? That we are talking about that. But we also have to leave room and remember that we aren't necessarily coaching one person, right? When as improv instructors, we're coaching a group. We're trying to coach group mind here, group cohesiveness. So if what's happening is the group is just like being mean, and they're, we've been together for all this time, the 5 of us, and now there's this new person here. We don't know how to play with them. No, I'm so sorry. Like, you're not, unless you're going to go off and become a troupe and leave, and you're
the 5 of you open your own theater where you're the only performers. Right. Okay.
Then you've got to figure out how, this is improv. You've got to figure out how to bring that person into the scene, right? You've got to bring that person in. Bye, Kurt. But that's the thing. That's what we're doing. We're coaching a group. So it is unfortunate. I have to sneeze. It is unfortunate.
It is unfortunate.
That is unfortunate.
In the middle of this point.
Bob Newhart would never have done that in the middle of a point. It's so un-Bob Newhart of you.
Turn that mic up.
It's unfortunate that happens, that sometimes we have to focus, our focus is drawn to one person, whether it's in a good way or a bad way, whatever it is, it's drawn away from the group, because at its core, in its like beauty, improv is really about the group. It's really about how the group is cohesive, moving through a story, telling a story, bouncing ideas off of each other. And we can teach individuals how to work within the group. But if what's happening is the group is ostracizing a person, that's not what we want. Right. If what's happening is the person is ostracizing themselves because of something, we don't want that either. So we're trying to figure out, really on a macro level, I think, like how the group dynamic is working. I'm like looking down at the group. That's what I'm doing now. I am God, and I am looking down at you. But
puppets.
God Newhart. Oh my gosh.
It's me. It is I, Bob Newhart. We'll never finish this. But we're really trying to see the environment, right? The biology sort of this moving organism, and whether or not it's possible for each individual to live succinctly within that biology.
Ooh. Yeah, absolutely. And to piggyback off of that, if I can diagnose what the issue is that's screwing up this group dynamic, I will drop the syllabus and spend a whole day working on it without them not to get to make sure everybody's comfortable, because that's the first job, right? This is a safe place. You should be able to, hang your freak flag and let it fly. I want people to be weird and comfortable, and you can't. And some people need to be comfortable to be weird. So that I'm taking care of that first. So I will, maybe bring up something, because, I've been doing this for so long, something from my past. Like, I was just thinking about this other day. I want to work on some stuff. Let's do some exercises. And maybe pick someone who is not the person that everybody's picking on, or the odd person, and make them, like, challenge them with screwing up a scene, and challenge the rest of them to take care of that person no matter what they do. And then have a discussion of, you see, one person really can't screw up an improv scene if everybody's taking care of each other, and that's the job.
Yeah, I do like that. I just like the reminder that you're teaching a group, not just individuals. I think we'll have to put a pin in this. I wanted to also talk about the like business and artistic dilemma that adjacent to this question, because sometimes you have to figure out with your program, if you have a student or you want to be as inclusive as possible. So you don't want to be just like cutting people and turning them away, especially if you're a developing community. Even if you wanted to be like, we're going to be exclusive and
right.
Like everyone is here for artistic performance reasons. You might not have the market for it to thrive. But typically what you want from as an improv theater is to not only be inclusive and build community and give people the gift of improv in not just the performance, but the life sense. You also want to build strong performers so that your shows, which, assumedly is going to be part of your business model too, are as good as they possibly can be. And so sometimes this question of like what to do with quote unquote bad students is like, how do we keep growing the people who are excelling at our mission statement as a theater that we want to have end up on our stage, and not have them get deterred by if the class is not enjoyable because of just feeling burnt out on the gym analogy, then that can be understandable too. And you want people to, you want to grow the talent pool, you want to grow the community. And so like designing a program, again, can be like a tricky business / artistic problem to find a solution to too, whether it's like, having audition for tiers of classes, or getting people used to like going back and take the level 1 again with a different teacher. Just, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
But without that feeling like punishment.
No,
yeah,
this is why there are tons of jobs in theater. Like, and to end on what you said, like this idea of like things not being punishment, but you said community, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not every single person in the community is on stage. Right? We're not employing actors like upon improvisers. There needs to be someone to run the ticket booth. There needs to be somebody to clean up. There needs to be somebody to set up. There needs to be somebody to contact people. Like all of these things, we want you in the community. And if you want to be acting in this community, as in on stage, then these are the things. And if that's the thing. I don't think that a lot of theaters, I'm going to say it, blasphemy. I don't think a lot of theaters have like actually sticking to their points of what their expectations of what the community is supposed to be in their mind's eye. And they don't, and that if they do, it's not trickling down to the instructors, but it needs to be a form of understanding. When the student goes here, that the teacher is going to say the same thing that this teacher says, that this teacher says, that this teacher says. So the student can know like, oh, I get it. This community based on boop, 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 isn't for me, right? And it'll be easier for all people involved, the student, yes, included, but teachers and faculty, to direct that person towards somewhere that they might feel more comfortable. But you said we have to wait to talk about that, so I'll
Yeah, well, maybe we'll yeah, man, I don't know, you guys want to stick around and talk more about it? Who's gotta go?
We can't all stick around and talk more about it. James.
Do you want to release that next week and we can?
Heck yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Keep us on this track, because I think it's really important.
Yeah, because I think I would love to keep talking about it, but one thing that's missing from this conversation is I would love to talk to somebody who owns a theater that's been around long enough to develop and change its curriculums based on some of these topics that we're talking about, so we get a little bit of experience point of view. Yeah, it's a great conversation, and I 100% agree once again, Shannon, that I think that theaters don't always do everything they can to reinforce whatever their mission statement is, which is not necessarily an indictment of laziness or anything like that. It's hard. It's hard to keep a unified front, and that's part of owning any business. So yeah, but okay. Great topic. We'll come back to this question of developing curriculum and artistic programming. Shannon, anything? We plugged your social media at the top. You got some new videos on movement. Anything else you want to plug before we let you go?
You know what? I have a Patreon page, people.
What?
I know. I took a break. I was like, you don't want to pay for my break. So I took a break, but Patreon is back, baby. And if you're trying to support female Black small businesses, go to my Patreon. Look up
in
Shannon
that
Stott
order.
There.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. So we'll drop a link for it in the show description here on the Improv Network group page, which is where we stream, as well as the Improv FAQ YouTube channel. And remember that you can also find this as a audio only podcast anywhere you find podcasts. So
also check out the Improv Net podcast Instagram. That's what's up right now. People are talking. People are checking it out.
Oh, I'm gonna check it out right now.
Yeah, friend that.
Yeah, I will.
Shannon, thanks so much for joining, and as always for a excellent conversation.
Yes,
of course. I love being here. You know it.
We will catch you next time on the Improv Network podcast.